move to what we're going to move to the business canvas, this whole idea of how we match, okay, how we design a business. Those of you who tried to or have written a business plan or have tried to write a business plan using a template, what were your challenges? Did anybody have challenges in trying to do that?
Finding places to research.
Okay, so research is one, absolutely, because they won't take your word for it, right, Ben? That's really not fair, but they don't. Okay. So what else? What else did you find challenging in that process?
I felt like the financial forecast and how much money can this business make comments. And because I'm a one-man band right now, my overhead is very low if you don't count my family living expenses. But for the business per se, our expenses are really low. But in the future, when I hire people to create a team of successful people, my overhead is going to go way up. And so how to forecast and plan for that in what time frame and both time frame and dollars.
Absolutely correct, Paul, because it sometimes, it's the scaling piece that gets us in trouble, right? We're kind of good here, but then the whole idea of scaling it beyond, that sometimes takes extra funding in the beginning, because you're actually putting out more than you're getting. Because sometimes there's an imbalance between I got to get ready to handle the clients, and yet I don't have the clients yet, right? Or I don't have enough of them yet. And it can be a very nerve-wracking situation, okay, if you will. In the material, I put together some books and things like that that help on that, Paul. They're on the financial side, helps you learn how to not make predictions. It helps you see how the health of your business. So if you've got your book set up correctly, you can test it. You can actually test your numbers and see, what is happening to you. Some things can be easily fixed. Some things take longer to fix, but always having the pulse of your business tells you just how really well you're doing. And that's really hard when we're trying to do everything.
Well, and I'll just add to that by saying one of the best things I could have done when I jumped on here was to get an accountant who set me up with QuickBooks, because now all of my profit loss statements are all on my QuickBooks. And as long as you keep that up, you can fairly quickly get into that information. And now I'm thrilled to have it. But, as time goes on, you add more data. And like you've been saying, when we have data to build this.
Yeah, you got historical data.
That's right.
So you start really understanding what your costs really are, right? And so then you make better bids, because now you have more concrete information, and you're not underbidding yourself, which happens. So yes, it can be very beneficial. You can also, for instance, some of the things that people get into trouble with is cash flow, of course, right? It's having cash when you need it, right? Which is sometimes a balancing act, because some of you have more seasonality than others, right? So how do I hold back enough so I have enough to get us through the slow months? Yeah, that's all cash management. And we'll be talking about that. Karen Patel is going to come in and help you guys understand this whole idea of sales projections. I'm going to say they're educated guesses is what they are. Okay. Because we are dealing with the future. Okay. But they are educated guesses. In doing the rest of that, anything else in this business, just statically writing it, did you run into? Anybody?
Kind of in that same vein with financials, just starting out, like how to categorize different expenses. And then especially with like being self-funded, especially now, just how do I allocate myself not a salary, but some sort of compensation and like figuring out how to have those actual numbers in such a beginning phase of it was definitely a challenge, or still
Right.
is a challenge.
And it will be
Yeah.
a challenge, and here's something to remember when you're starting out and you're the engine of your business, okay? Owner gets paid out of profit.
Mhm.
If there is no profit, guess who doesn't get paid? The owner.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because, and so often we come from the employee standpoint, right? Where we get a paycheck every 2 weeks, regardless of whether the company makes money or not, right? Now we're on the other side where I can guarantee you our employees get paid before we do, right? So just remember that it's out of profit in the beginning, especially, okay? So let's talk about this whole idea of the business canvas, if you will. Okay. And the difference is a template is a vertical thing, and there's templates in there, okay, in Google. But the template is I have to think very, here it goes this, and it's very vertical, right? Our thinking isn't vertical. Our thinking is this. So there was a book written, and we're going to talk about this. There was a book written in 2010 that pretty much changed a lot of thinking, and has become kind of the way of doing business now, the way of doing strategy. Once you learn how to do this business canvas, you can test any idea you have. So if you go through this class and you've got an idea of how you want to do this, and you get through the class and you go, whoops, I don't think this is the right one. Okay. Number one, that's going to be very disappointing. Okay. But number two, it's now what? And you're going to say, okay, what could I do with the resources I have and something? And oftentimes that creativity will take you to a better place than you would have been in the beginning, if you just let yourself open to discovery. So we're going to talk, I'm going to go through and I'm going to inform you how to do this. I'm going to talk about this whole idea of business canvas and business strategy. And then we're going to spend probably the last hour of this class. I'm going to break you into groups. Okay, I hope that goes well because it's the first time I've ever done it, but I think I got it. So I'm going to break you into groups, and you're going to go through an exercise and actually design a business, and then you're going to come back and tell us what it looks like and what you learned through that process. Okay, so let's get started. All right. In 2009, Alex Oswald introduced the concept of a business model in the book entitled Business Model Generation. Old business planning was out, and a new way of thinking was in. The days were gone when companies could create a business model and then execute it in the same way for the next 25 to 50 years. Technology, customer demands, and other outside forces were changing not only how companies deliver their product or service, but how their customers use those services. Constant adaptation was the new model.
Nancy,
Yeah, can you hear it?
are you wanting to share a video or audio?
Yeah, what? It's not working, is it?
No, so
Hang on.
The 9 blocks focus.
I'm back. Why didn't it work?
okay. Are you wanting to just share audio or both audio and
And the
video?
picture, and you didn't see the picture, did you?
No.
This is what I get for trying something new.
It's the share screen button and then
Yeah, I
it'll,
know. I do it all the time.
oh, never mind.
Yeah, but thanks. But yeah, no, I
You
got
can
it.
you can practice
on.
on this. So
Is it on your other monitor?
Yeah, and that's why, and here it is. So there it came up. So now we're gonna go over here. Okay, so we're gonna try this again one more time. So hang on. You can yell at me if it doesn't work. Hang on. Hmm. That should work. So here we go. So which screen are you guys seeing?
We're seeing the Zoom
That's
screen.
what I thought you're seeing. Yep.
Is it a PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's always worked.
Okay.
So I,
Old planning was out, and a new way of thinking was in. The days were gone when companies could create a business model and then execute it in the same way for the next 25 to 50 years. Technology, customer demands, and other outside forces were changing not only how companies deliver their product or service, but how their customers use those services. Constant adaptation was the new model. The business model canvas uses 9 basic building blocks that demonstrate how a company intends to make money. The 9 blocks focus on 4 main areas of a business: customers, offers, infrastructure, and financial viability. It is a strategic blueprint with an implementation plan to turn a concept into a business. All 9 blocks touch each other and are connected to each other. When something is changed in one block, most likely it changes something in every other block. The 9 blocks are interrelated. Once you have the model created, it is then researched and tested. Pivots are made throughout the creation process as more information is gathered. It is from this canvas a business plan is created. That plan can serve many needs. It is a communication tool to sell your business concept to investors. Lenders expect a written plan. Vendors may expect one. If you are bootstrapping your business, you are the initial investor. As the investor, you need to see a plan. Simply put, the plan is a written outcome of the model you have created and proven for your business. The final business plan is a roadmap that guides you to the desired destination on time with enough gas in your tank to get you there. Often, we think the purpose of a business plan is to get funding. In other words, to make the bank happy. Obtaining funding is certainly necessary for many startups or current businesses looking for funds to grow. However, a business plan is much more than that. It should be centered on designing a business model that achieves desired results. It also forces us to take the dream in our head to the reality of paper and numbers. This can be scary. The dream in our head is almost always perfect. It often does not include the cost of renting the space, insurance, employee costs, workers' comp, revenue streams, or fixed and variable costs. How will you measure success? When will you break even in the business? It answers those questions and much more before you commit your own time and resources. Just like the Big Why campus, the business campus is built on the who, what, and how, and sits on the money. This will be a quick overview of the canvas, which we will cover in greater detail in the next unit. The canvas is an entrepreneurship tool for the planning. It's a balance between creativity and logic. You will use small Post-it notes to create your story. The struggle we have when we create a linear business plan or follow a template. A plan is not created in a linear order. It evolves. We start with a belief, but as we do research and learn more, we may find that the original belief is just not true. And I remind you, 7 of those blocks sit on the money. It is the difference between the money generated from the revenue streams and the cost of the business that will determine if this is in fact a viable business plan. Most of us start a business because we are good at something. We are a good engineer, a good teacher, salesperson. We hang out our shingles, so to speak, and wait for people to come. Sometimes that happens. Often it does not, or it does not happen soon enough. We are often starting in the wrong place. The first place we need to look at is who needs us, not what we can offer. Who needs or wants our services or products? When we look at the market, what is not being done now that you could provide or create for that customer segment? What could you do better than some of the current offerings? When you find that customer segment that needs your product or service, are there enough of them to support your business model? Once you determine who your customer is, you must find out more about them. Where do they live? How much do they tend to spend on your type of product or service? What will make them choose you over the competition? The next block to consider is customer relationships. Every customer segment or demographic has expectations. They like certain things delivered in certain ways. You must be like Burger King and deliver it their way. There's a sales funnel that is created in every business. Some of those sales funnels are longer and more costly than others. There is a path that each prospective customer takes on their journey to buy for the first time, come back for a second time, and hopefully become a loyal customer. You need to design that relationship. Some relationships have a bigger impact on the cost structure than others. It is only when we truly understand our customer segment or segments that we can create our value proposition or offer. How do we set up our offer so it is appealing to the group we are targeting? It is not about what we want to offer. It is about what the customer is willing to buy. When your product or service matches what is missing in the current market or improves on what is currently out there, you have a match. Look at what happened to Blockbuster. They had a great business model. How many of you remember spending Friday and Saturday night at the Blockbuster video store, picking out the movie for the night? The model was a winner. Unfortunately, they did not innovate. Newly released videos started to be released through the cable companies, and then, of course, Netflix was born. We could get movies immediately to our homes for the grand price of $7.99 a month. Blockbuster continued with their original business model, and unfortunately, Blockbuster died. Their core services no longer reflected what the customers wanted, and they insisted on doing it their way, all the way to bankruptcy. The next block to consider is your distribution channels. How are you going to get your product to market? How will your service be delivered? What is the most effective way to get your product from the manufacturer into the hands of the customer? And then there is the awareness channel. That is your marketing strategy. How will the customer know you exist? What strategies will be necessary to stand out above the crowd? Will you have an actual location? Or will your website be your store? Will you white label your product to other retailers and let them worry about the inventory? How much will all of these distribution channels cost? Creating your revenue streams is in the next block. How revenue is being generated in the marketplace is being turned on its head. We have many different revenue models to choose from. The more revenue streams we can conceive, the more likely we will make money. Some revenue streams may be more valuable than others. Are we going to sell a product outright, or are we going to lease it? Will we offer a subscription service for our product or service? Some revenue streams are easier to execute and manage than others. What will make most sense for our business? Now move to the how side of the canvas. This is the logic side. It is the execution side of the model. The right side was the creative piece. It is on the left side of the canvas that we determine if and how this business will come into being. Key resources are divided into 4 key areas, and they all have costs in time, money, and effort. The first one is the physical side of the business. What equipment will you need to make your product? What type of office space will you need to provide your service to your clients? What physical items do you need to make your business function daily? The second area is the human piece. How many employees will you need to open your doors? Will you outsource some of your administration duties? What kind of technology will you need? The third key piece is your intellectual property. Do you have software development you need to protect? Do you have patents or need trademarks? And the fourth key area is financial. What financial resources are you going to need to get this started and running? These costs become part of your startup cost. Key activities. Think of this as your to-do list. It is also the time for you to take an assessment of your strengths and weaknesses. What can you do, and what should you outsource or hire for? What must be done, in what order, and who is responsible? This is where priorities get set. You cannot do everything. Will you need to outsource some of these projects? You may find that you have several possible customer segments, but financially, you can only start with one. This is where you choose it and develop your implementation plan. What is it going to cost to implement this plan? Key partners. This is a very important block and often one that is overlooked. Sometimes these are your vendors. Often they are like-minded businesses that serve the same target market but offer different services. Building this group provides your business with many opportunities to partner, share resources, and obtain new customers. It all sits on the money. How much is this all going to cost? Do the revenues generated support this business model? Is this business model viable? Is there a smarter way to get to where you want to go? What are your startup costs? What are your ongoing operational costs? What will it cost to expand? The canvas is the story of your business. This is the beginning of a viable business plan. This becomes your brand and integrates into your marketing strategy. This is the basis of the whole story of your business. Behind this canvas is research, financial spreadsheets, testing, validating, SWOT analysis, marketing plans, vendor and equipment pricing. All of that is what goes into the business plan. The information you gather here helps you put together a 5 to 10 minute pitch for investors if that is what you need. This is an example of a business model. Use a different color sticky note for each possible customer segment. You can manually do this on a canvas. You can use a computer template that will allow you to use sticky notes. You might want to use yellow for the resources that are shared. Some of our students have used a whiteboard at home with the canvas. Others have outlined the canvas on their living room wall with painter's tape. Do what works for you. The important part to remember in this process is that you are on a journey of discovery. Even though most of you have a definite idea of what you want to do, open yourself up to explore all possibilities. The goal is to arrive at a model that you can fund and execute and sustain. It is important to remember, initially, it is a guess. The next step will be to do the research. Determine where you can start. What resources do you really need? Eventually, you will start working with real numbers, not guesses. The goal is to prove the plan. Remember, your big why canvas and your value proposition must match. This match enables you to design a financially viable business model that also matches the lifestyle you want to live. A validated business model is the basis for a well-written, thoughtful business plan, which includes solid financial projections and a defined marketing strategy. It all starts with your first guess. This process will take some time. This is about starting smart the first time. Your business model will continue to evolve and improve. At EL3, our goal is to help you determine your best plan of action. The other students in this entrepreneurial journey are also an integral part of your journey. Helping each other succeed is core to everyone's.
So that was a quick overview. Okay. In your material, it goes much deeper. But I want you guys to think of some things here. So I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to write down the answer. You don't have to share it with anybody. I just want you to write it down. Okay. Those of you who've met me in consulting may already have this answer because I probably asked you this question already. Ben, I know I asked you. So let's pretend I have a magic wand. Okay. And I can grant your wish in 3 years. So 3 years from now, you want this business to be bringing home to you. So this is after all the bills are paid, there's money to run the business, you got money for taxes, all that kind of good stuff, and you got money to maybe expand or whatever your goals are. What number needs to go into your bank account personally for you to use, for you to say it has been worth all the blood, sweat, and tears I put into this? What's that number? I want you to write it down. Once you have that number, guys, you have to say, that's where I want to be in 3 years. And now we're going to backstep it and say, this is my first step, second step, third step, fourth step to get there. Does that make sense? Because if you don't know where you're going, guess what? You can't get. You can't get there, right? And so now you're going to say, okay, you're just going to start thinking about some of these things. And this whole idea is, how am I going to generate? How much money do I have to generate? Because I'm going to take my costs off of it. So if you said, for instance, I'd like to make $100,000 a year, okay, that's fine. Looking at your business model, how much money do you have to generate, cover all your expenses, save money for a rainy day, do all of that, and still bring home $100,000? So depending on your business model, some are simpler than others, some have less overhead than others. Okay. But Does that mean you have to generate 400,000 a year, 500,000 a year to do that? $1 million a year? What is it? Right? So that starts to tell you what your real goal is. So you can get that in place. And then those of you who are the engine of your business. Okay. So Paul, right now you're the engine of your business. Several of you are the engine of your business, right? If you are doing consulting because you have a information that other people are willing to pay for, all right, you only have 24 hours in a day, unless you know something I don't know. Okay, so we all got 24 hours in a day. So with 24 hours, this is no 40-hour work week here. Okay, so you say I charge X amount of dollars per hour, because usually that's what we do is billable work, bill by the hour. Okay, so how many billable hours would I have to do to get there? How many billable hours would and so then I have to do my marketing, I have to do my planning, I have to go to the networking events, blah, 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 blah. I have to work with vendors, I have to do all of that. Okay, so how many hours in a week is that, and is that even possible? So then that becomes to you, those of you who are at this moment doing this on your own, you get to make the choice. You're the boss. Okay, none of this is wrong or right choices. So you may say, okay, I just want to do me. I'm fine. I'm creating a job for myself. Just understand what that job where that job can get you. Okay. Other people say that's where I'm going to start, but I'm going to build an agency. Okay. And I have other people out doing, things, right? Making money while I have lunch, right? So think about what your design is going to look like. Thoughts about this whole concept?
Very silly side note, there are not enough hours in any day, ever.
There aren't. It's really hard, Paul. It's and this is when you start thinking about financially, and again, these are the decisions we have to make. Financially, are there things that I'm not saying right this second, but are there things that I'm eventually going to outsource because I just don't have time to do them? And outsourcing does not mean we don't manage it. We still have to manage it, right? So how are you going to strategically make this happen? And what are going to be your steps? Is something that each one of you has to consider. And still keep balance in your life. Remember that other canvas up there. Okay, so how are you going to accomplish this? Thoughts about the canvas?
I have a question.
Questions?
Not necessarily about the white canvas.
Olivia, say it again.
Yeah, I have a question. My question is approximately what?
Is it just me or I can't hear her? Is it just me that can't hear? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, it's really hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you better.
Okay, cool. Approximately what year of business do small businesses start seeing revenue that you can say, okay, I can put this on the side, I'm good? Is it usually year 3 and up?
There's no set answer.
Yeah.
And it depends on the industry you're in. It
Right.
depends. It can depend on, some people offer the service and they get paid right away, right? Other people, there's a longer, there's like a longer sales funnel and it takes longer to get paid, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. It kind of depends on the industry that you're in.
Yeah. Okay.
When we bring in the business librarian, you're going to learn about how to find out some of that information.
Yeah.
Okay, where you can start saying based on average,
Yeah.
and nothing's ever average, right? But based on average, this is what you can expect.
Right.
It just really depends on, there's so many things that go into this
Right.
because it can be overhead or lack of overhead, right? It could be initial marketing costs. If you guys are doing something that's a little new or different, it takes customers longer to understand how that's going to benefit them usually, because they don't know, they've never heard it done that way, or it's a new product or whatever. So there's a longer lead time there. So what that means usually is more money has to go in what I'm going to call educational marketing. Okay, kind of thing. Some people have very have models that really, after they get going, run themselves pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends. That's a terrible answer, Flavia, but that's the best
Right.
I've got.
Of course.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you anyways.
So, again, we're going to test this and see, because when you put the first canvas up, and this is what I want you guys to do. Okay. I just want you to, those of you already in business. Okay. So with the, pick your color. I don't care, right? Whatever you want, makes you happy. Have several different colors, but the first one is going to be how it is now. Right? So this is where that tells you where your starting point is. You may often, you will see gaps where there's things that maybe you hadn't already, you've been missing or didn't realize you should be thinking about. And then you want to color code them. So like most people over where we do, and we'll talk about the market and stuff, but most people who have target markets, you don't want more than 3. Okay. Because you're not the big guys. Okay. So you'll say, this is a market, or this is a possibility to market. This would be a possibility. And this would be a possibility. And then you're going to rank them, and you're going to say, well, you don't want to do all 3 all at once, because that's spreading your resources too thin. So you rate them 1, 2, and 3. And you concentrate on one. And then when you guys come up, and we're going to spend a lot of time doing this in the next couple of weeks, but you're going to come up with what we call your value proposition, or your offer, right? So your offer is going to match that first target market. And then when you go to the second market, your offer, you're in the same business, but you're going to offer it a little different, because they care about something different. Okay, or something's more important to them than in that other market. So now, and you do the same thing with a third. So now you're defining it, you're ratcheting it down and talking to them, and they hear you because you're talking their language. You've identified their pain point. And so now they want to know more. I want you guys to start, and this may be hard for some of you. I want you to start to watch commercials. I want you to start paying attention to what gets your attention on social media. Okay, and says, geez, why did I click that to learn more about or read that story or whatever it is. I want you to make a conscious think to myself, what made me do that? What did they say that got me to click 1 more time or 2 more times or whatever? Because understanding the psychology of this is just as important as anything else. So it's really about, and then be ready. Here's what I tell people a lot. So you make your canvas, right? You got your canvas. This is my first canvas. Take a picture of it. And then every time you change something on that canvas or revise it, guess what? Take another picture. Because now what you're going to have is you're going to see how it morphed, how it changed, what is different. And like I say, in the reading material, there's a lot more information on this. But that give you questions, thoughts, being introduced to it. Tell me what you think.
I have a question.
Yeah, Cassie.
When you have two people that are forming the same business, is there suggestions on how we should go about our canvases? Do we do them separately and then combine them? Do we have our own separate ones and then a shared one? I mean, I don't want to do more work. I
Yeah, I
want to
think-
work, but like, I don't want to do more work than necessary, but I
Right,
want
I think doing it together is a good idea.
doing
you
it
know,
together. Okay.
Yeah, I think doing it together, just have a brainstorming session,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then if you come up with an idea that's a possibility, but you don't really know,
Mhm.
write it down and put it outside the canvas.
Okay.
All right. So now you're still posting ideas that may come up later on because you found out different information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I would, if I had with a business partner, I'd do it together as much as I could.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
because what you're gonna find is
Sorry.
you probably find you're better, each of you are better at something, you know what I mean? And where, I in the partnership I have, I'm Miss Creative. I don't know if you guessed that, but I'm Miss Creative, right? And they're like, oh, we could do that. No, we could do that. And isn't that cool? And my business partner, she's like, and how much is that going to cost? And we're Debbie Downer, she's related, but it's important, right? Because I would just go off and have, Yay team make a party. And she's over there saying, now, how's that going to affect what we're already doing? What our resources going to be? She throws all the stuff I say to you back at me, which is really irritating at times. Okay. But it's really helpful. It really, truly is helpful. And what you're going to find is you're eventually, when we get to the point where we're now getting costs and doing all of that, you will find that some of the things you want to do probably can't do right out the gate. Okay. Okay. But it's better to know it now rather than after you signed a lease for 5 years, personally signed, right?
Yeah.
So this is all about pre-planning. And the more you play with this, the more you start thinking this way. So there's the book itself is Business Model Generation. I recommend it to all of you. Okay. And the Fortune 500 companies now use the business canvas pretty much in how they do all of their planning for their next steps. It's become that important. Okay. So then there's another book that will help you later on in this course. It's called The Value Proposition. It's by Strategizer. Guess who owns Strategizer now? Alex. Okay. Whoops. You can go online on YouTube. He's done presentations. There's other people that have done presentations. So there's tons of information, again, on YouTube. I think sometimes it's good to hear it from different voices, right? Because you'll pick up different stuff that you didn't pick up from someone else. But give yourself, it's just sticky notes, people. It's not in stone. So give yourself the freedom. And as you find out, like I say, as you find out more information, like Paul, that's going to help you figure out what your timetable is going to be. You start saying, I have to make X amount of revenue before I can do this hire. X amount of revenue before I can do that. Right. But again, when it comes to costs and revenue, okay, so you've got your revenue streams, right? And you've got your costs. Okay, all the decisions you make up there in those other 7 usually affect one, if not both, of those 2 sections. The general rule is you want to be liberal with your cost and conservative with your revenue. Okay. Because it would be nice to be surprised you made such a profit rather than, oh my God, we didn't make our numbers. Other questions? Does this feel different than a template?
I think it feels a little bit different than a template in that it kind of gives you maybe a little more direction instead of just saying, you know, this is Sally who has a business that is this, and this is her business plan. And because halfway through, you know, you get through her executive summary and the kind of descriptions and details of it, and then you kind of get into the nitty gritty, and it's all just arbitrary to me at that point. So at least this gives you a little, I don't know, better of a starting point to go off of, maybe.
I think, Paul, it's more like, you know, it helps you build a story that people can understand. You know, because so often we look at the even though we know things are connected on the templates, right? They don't feel connected. And so, and you will practice this. So every time you would be expanding the company or moving, you know, or maybe looking at a new audience, I always think it's just, you just go back to the canvas and say, okay, how's this one going to work? Is it going to work? What resources is it going to take? Where's that money going to come from? What do we have to change? What do we have to cut back on? Right. And so so you always start there. And you start to realize how many, I guess I would call them like hidden costs that are costs, but you don't think about it. And then even if you guys are doing the service, right? You're providing service, or you've got a product or whatever. If you're making a product, same thing. Okay. Even though you don't get paid for it necessarily in the beginning, how much is how much are you working, right? So if you're making the product that you're selling, so if you were making jewelry or something like that, how many hours did you put into that piece of jewelry? What's your time worth? And maybe in the beginning you can't get that because you don't have the brand or the name or this, that, whatever. But if you get to a certain point, you're going to have to hire somebody. And if you had to help you, and if you haven't got labor in there, guess what? You can't hire people to help you. So really, I want you to be really strategic about what each decision you make costs you. On the flip side, how much revenue opportunity does it give you? Does it give you an edge over your nearest competitor? Is that worth it? And those are all decisions that you, as the owner, get to make. So one of the things that when we talk about those key partners over there, okay, so like if you have vendors that you depend on, all right, you need to have more than one vendor for everything you need. All right, and you need a relationship. Because what happens if the vendor that you're real comfortable with and the vendor you're using for whatever reason goes out of business, or the employees go on strike, or I don't know, their stuff ends up in a boat in Long Beach Harbor, you know, what happens, right? What's your backup plan? Because if you lose a vendor, that's not the time to go looking for a new vendor. Sometimes what some people do to like cut their vendor costs, because with a lot of things on the vendor side, it's quantity, right? It's how much can you order, right? With inventory. And oftentimes that's a struggle when you're fairly new. So what some people do, I have restaurants that do this, they basically go in together and then they split it. But their order's bigger. And they just split it after they bought stuff. So they've got a kind of a little community thing going there. Also, too, one of the things that I'd said in that presentation, and I forgot I said it, how much Can anybody tell me what it means to white label something? Did you hear that in the presentation? You can choose to white label. Okay. So what white labeling does is it allows you to look bigger than you are. A lot of times clients like to work for a group that they think is bigger or as same size as a possible competitor, if you will, right? So one of the things that we did early on in our accounting company is in the beginning, okay, we do bookkeeping, senior accounting, and we have a trademark named SBFO, Small Business Financial Officer, which is basically a CFO for small companies, right? And we in doing that, and nobody knew what an SBFO was when we started either, so that was always a bit of a challenge, if you will. But in the beginning, for us to look bigger, okay, is we found as our SBFO was going out, or whoever was acting as the SBFO, they would go out and they talked to the client, and the client usually called us because they were having trouble. They weren't making the same kind of profits they had made the year before, or something was going on, right? And so they brought us in to do this kind of investigation of their financials and see if we could find out where. And oftentimes what happens in companies that have employees, okay, because employee costs are a big thing, is hard, and even in the financials, it's hard to track turnover. You know, it's like you hire somebody and then they quit and you have to hire somebody to take their place. You got to do training, you got to do all these other things that don't have a category necessarily to fall into the accounting, but oftentimes, but you can see it if you look at the financials close enough. And so we would ask them, we would say, well, you know, are you having trouble here? You got more turnover than you had last year? What's been going on? And they go, I don't know. I don't know if we're paying people right. It's just harder, right? And we have a benefits package, but maybe, I don't know, right? So then we would call an HR person who runs an HR company that we knew really well. And we would call Kelly and we'd say, hey, Kelly, I'm going to make a referral to you. And this is such and such over at such and such business. And I recommended you. Right. So that's how we started. And then we noticed this happened quite a bit. Right. And before I started, one time I did have an HR certification. I was HR certified and so forth, but I had not kept it up because I was no longer doing it. So I didn't feel comfortable in going out and working with them. So what we did is we contracted with her. And we made her Tracy was under white label. So what Tracy did is she said, I'll charge this much per hour, billable hour for consultation. I would charge this much for an employee handbook. And we just went through a list of costs. Okay. And she charged less than she would charge the client because she wouldn't have got the client without us because the client was through us. So she's on our website as Tracy, our HR person, and we'd say in the same situation, we can help you with that client. On our staff, we have Tracy, and this is where she's awesome. And so she would go in under our umbrella, so we would look bigger, and she would work with the client. We would bill the client for her work. And when we got paid, we would pay her. Okay. The client never saw that there was separate. So who looked big? And we charged 20%. So she charged less because she didn't go out with the client. So that was that 20%. We took that 20% and she kept the rest. But it made us look what? Bigger. Mm-hmm. So there's ways you can white label people under you. Or,
And can I just add one thing to that is that can work the other way around too. That's currently my position right now is serving or providing a service for other audiovisual integrators that can't support what I do in-house. And
Mhm.
so if I ever go to a job site, for example, it's arbitrarily the Marriott Hotel. I go there under the auspices of XYZ company, and they don't ever know. I don't hand them my business card. I don't try to mise in on their business. I represent that company, and that's been very lucrative for me so far.
yes,
It's a great way to get bigger projects that you don't have the purchasing power for.
that's
Kind
right.
of like you were saying about teaming up to buy things to get a bulk
Mhm.
discount. Well, right now I don't have a lot of purchasing power, and some projects are 50, 60, $70,000 in material costs. Well, if you can get with a larger company, you both make a little money, and it's a great way to
Yeah,
get
it's,
some business you wouldn't otherwise.
and also sometimes, Paul, meet contacts that you wouldn't normally meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
You-
networking is huge, and in not only in your customer side of things, but also on your vendor side of things. Because if you need to provide a service or something that that particular company doesn't deal with, you're now the subject matter expert, if you will, which is a
Mhm.
nice place to be when people call you and ask your advice on things. You know,
And then, and that brings up the other, those of you who are in consulting, you're selling you. And you're selling, you have to be seen as an expert. So then there's that whole piece that has to be figured out, is how do you get perceived as an expert? What are activities that you're going to have to do to make that happen? And that needs to be a strategy, that needs to be a plan of how to get there. But it's amazing when you start taking these things apart. And the other part of key partners, guys, is people who serve the same client, they offer a different service. And so they refer you, you refer them. So again, there's all kinds of ways to do this. I just want you to start thinking about how your business is going to look like in all of these areas. Question, yes. See, thanks, Belinda. It works. I've seen it, Belinda, I've seen it work over and over and over again. This is a common way of, and it comes into building trustworthy relationships, because people don't do that with people they can't count on. Right?
well, and it also gives you a new perspective on it. Now, XYZ audiovisual integrators aren't my competition. We're partners.
Your partners.
So the best way, you can't beat them, you join them. And
Right.
that's a great way to get more business, get more networking, get yourself out there, get a portfolio built.
Yep.
You're not fighting for work with these guys, you're working with them. And
Mhm.
again,
Because both of you are key.
exactly. And if you can bring projects to them,
Mhm.
and vice versa, it's a two-way street. They're always able to do things that you can't do. It's a great partnership to have.
It is. Belinda.
So a question that I have is, do you recommend having a non-compete agreement in your contract with other vendors that you're utilizing? So that, because we want to use small businesses to deliver our service at times, but they're also looking for business. So is there a way to, I don't know, do that in a really cool way?
Well, here's the deal, Belinda. I want you to hold that question to when we have the attorney, because I think that's a really good question for
Okay.
the attorney. Okay. I can speak on a little bit on non-competes as a general rule in the state of Colorado don't hold much water.
Mm.
Okay. They're not very strong. Okay. They just aren't. If you guys hire people and it's common to sign a non-compete, right? And we found this out the hard way. So, but really, if you are a business where where your employees are seeing your clients more than you are, does that make sense? Right? And so they're going out and doing the work that you get, right? And you're monitoring the whole thing, right? But they're the ones building the relationship.
Mhm.
And then things happen that makes them unhappy, or they decide, we've decided to part ways, if you will. That's where you get calls that say, oh, so-and-so's been calling us, and she can do it for, X amount of dollars. She's not running an office, she's doing it from home. And she's the one that's been working with them for 6 months. Or did you know this so-and-so? And we called the attorney and we said, I thought we had a non-compete. I thought we were good. And come to find out, the strongest thing in Colorado is trade secret agreements, because your client list is considered as trade secret. So just going out a little bit of what I wrote. Other questions? So we're going to take a break. Okay. And then we're going to come back. What's going to happen? God knows, I hope this works. Okay. When I come back, I'm going to break you into, I'm going to go over a way for you to practice. So I need you guys to have canvases and sticky notes in front of you. Okay. Now, if you don't, that's okay, because you'll be in a group. Somebody in that group needs to have one. All right. Because somebody's going to be writing down what you're going to be putting down, what I'm going to put you in a group for 20 minutes. You're going to work on a problem. Okay. You're actually going to build a business. And so we'll talk about how we're going to do that when we come back. Okay. And then when you come back, I'm going to have each of you as a group explain what happened in that 20 minutes, because I want you guys to see what happens when you collaborate with each other. Okay. And how that spurs creativity, because what we're going to be looking for in this exercise is the power of creativity. Okay. So what time is it? It is 6:17. So come back, what, 6:32? That sound right? Okay. So I'll see all you guys back at 6:32. All right. And we'll go from there. All right. 6:32, be back, please. Ideation. Okay. So this whole idea of, sometimes we sit by ourselves and it's sometimes hard to get out of our box, right? Because we're only talking to ourselves. So with this idea of I want you to start seeing the power of group, okay, and the power of great minds working together, kind of thing. So I'm going to introduce this to you, take about 5 minutes to introduce it to you, and then I'm going to break you into groups. You're going to be in groups for 15 minutes solving the problem. Okay. And then you're going to come back and each group is going to present their business canvas that they have created. I'm going to give you a theme to work around, but you're going to create a bit, has nothing to do with your business. It's just the idea of creating a business. And so we'll get started on that. So hang on a second. Okay, can you guys see this? Somebody tell me.
Nope.
No.
I don't know what is wrong. I really don't. I'm gonna go have a drink after this class. I am in such a mix. Okay. Well, I'm not going to waste time. I'm just going to tell you. Okay. We're going to go on this ideation. So every thought is a good one. There's no bad answers. Okay. I want you in your group to build a business model. You're only going to get 15 minutes to do it. So I don't want you to think about it too hard. You're not going to have to develop financial numbers because you're not going to have time, Paul. So you're safe there. Okay. So you're going to build this business on a cow. Okay. So your business can be any way connected with a cow. So for instance, you could have a ice cream business. You could certainly sell beef. You could take your cow to birthday parties. You could do anything you want, but somehow it has to have a nugget of a cow. Okay. So you're going to start with, okay, your offer and your target market. And then you're going to go from there. But and you want to name your company? You want to give it a name. Okay. And then I want you to develop it enough that when we come back, you as a group are going to share the story of your business. I mean, it could be things like shoes, right? Because good leather shoes come from what? Yeah, cows. Okay. So again, you're not going to be held to it. Just make it happen. Okay. Questions. You got 15 minutes. You want to have somebody's going to be a scribe. Only one of you has to be a scribe. I mean, y'all can take notes, but at least one of you is writing down or doing the sticky notes on each one of these sections. Okay. So where are you going to get your revenue from? What are some of the costs you're going to have to do what you have to do? Okay. Are there less expensive ways maybe you can cut overhead? Because you've got key partners you can work with and share their resources. So I want you to think about all of those different things in your business. Okay, questions? You guys got to talk to me. I get so lonely when you don't talk to me.
Is there I feel like last week I had a template up on my screen. Is there
in
a handy one that somebody
in the
has
Google,
that we need
yeah.
to learn?
Yeah, there's one in your in the Google Drive, several actually. So does everybody have a canvas in front of you? Right? Yes, no, maybe? Belinda's looking for one as we speak. Okay.
Is it the one with your big Y in the middle or the one that says why you help? how
Say it
you
again.
help?
It's hard. Say it again.
Yeah, Derek, I think you're breathing into the mic.
So what was the question?
Is it the one where in the middle it says your big Y or in the
No,
middle it
that's
says
the
how you
that's the
help?
other one. Yeah, that's the one we worked on last week. It's the second one. It's the
Yeah,
business.
this one is
canvas.
the business model canvas.
Yeah, it's the business model canvas.
And if you
It has
click
how you
it,
help in the middle.
Yep. You can use that one because if you use the one where I put the words in there, it kind of tells you how everything's connected, right? In the beginning, especially with the little arrows. Yep. Thank you, Don. Don's got it. So at least in Don's group, okay, he's going to be the scribe. No, I didn't mean to appoint you that, Don, but you know. But yeah. Tell me when you guys are ready. Okay, I'm going to get ready to throw you into groups. All right. All right, so here we go. Okay, 3 groups. All right, so in room 1 is going to be Jordan and Flavia and Hel. Okay, we're set. Here you go. 15 minutes.
Lee, you also were making dad jokes. I just want to say that. Oh, you're muted now. Are we the only ones back? Where's everybody? Oh, there they are.
Linda, when it's our turn, I can share my screen so that way you've got like your good cheat sheet, but like you have the show.
Thank you. Awesome. That will be really helpful.
All right. So hopefully you found that a little informative and interesting. So I've got 3 groups. There's no rewards for going first, just saying, but there's no rewards for going last either. So, but you're all going to go. So, what group would like to make their presentation first? I knew Belinda was going to raise her hand. I just knew it. I could feel it.
I'm super fired up.
Okay, Belinda. So you're on with your group.
Oh, I need April's gonna give the visual here.
Sounds like a deal.
So our value proposition is to bring our small herd of cattle and baby cows, cattle and calves to events where they can provide education, fitness, comfort, whatever, whatever it may be. Thank you, Blondie. I appreciate the love. Thank you. We feel that cattle have a lot to offer to both children and adults. So we are going to partner with our folks at extension offices, with colleges, veterinarians, schools, also farmers. Also, where this idea really got some legs, you could say, is talking about the Tough Udder events where we're going to cause mini stampedes for fitness challenges. Thank you. That's good. All right, you guys, I'm trying to get through this serious presentation. So we our key activities are going to be marketing and customer education, because we want people to truly appreciate the benefit of having large live animals at your events. We will be transporting our animals to the events, and obviously we have all the activities of caring for the animals. Those are also part of our key resources. We have land, we have trucks, we have cattle, and our costs, insurance, taking care of all of those things. And then the marketing costs, the vet bills, boarding our cattle, and paying taxes on all of it. And let's see, can't forget some of our mottos that we will bring in our marketing: utter brilliance, tough udder, tickle your teeth. We have such a huge range of events that we can do with these animals. Mentioned some of our customer relationships, but also race organizers, senior centers, hospitals, nonprofits. And our channels will be marketing, rodeos, is that Future Farmers of America maybe? Entertainment, education. So we'll be getting the word and the animals out in various ways. And our revenue streams will be not only entertainment, but fertilizer, stud fees, selling raw materials, and selling our cattle themselves. Our audiences, or our customers, are children, adults, and farmers. Any investors?
I want to take you to the next pitch tank. Okay, Belinda. Okay, just saying. So your group, what did you learn from that exercise?
Other people's minds can go places mine don't go.
I learned that from you, Lee.
Kind of spreads the parameters.
It does help sometimes, that's why they call it
Yeah.
brainstorming, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's looking at it from a different place. They have a different, experience.
Well, it brought different aspects of our business to
Mhm.
life that we weren't all thinking about at the same time.
Yeah, and Paul, for a second career, you can try stand-up comedy when you have nothing else to do. Just saying. It's a suggestion. So
Right, nothing to do. I'll work on
yeah,
that.
I'm just saying, when way back, when you retire and have nothing to do, you can look at that as an avenue. Anything else you guys learned in working with the Canvas? What did you learn from just the exercise itself?
I suggested we do channels, and we started to fill it up, but those were actually customer relationships.
And these are going to
the way that
become
we were thinking about it wasn't maybe the way
Right.
it should be.
and the material, it goes into more detail so you guys, understand it. Okay. It's really about the customer relationships. Part of that is how you get paid. In other words, if I have an online store, okay, that has less overhead once it's set up and the money is automatically paid, it's immediate. Whereas if I'm doing one-on-one, for instance, consulting, that's labor intensive. So that tends to have a higher cost to delivery. Okay, because either I'm having an employee or somebody else do it. So in your business, how are you getting paid to some degree and you can have several. Okay, you don't have just one. You can have several different ways, but they all start feeding into each other because the more revenue streams you guys can come up with, okay, and they have shared costs, the better your bottom line is going to look.
Would you say that the revenue streams and the customer relationships are almost hand in hand?
They all are hand in hand. They all touch. That's the point I'm trying to get to, Paul, is they all touch, right? Because oftentimes when we think about these things, we think of them separate. They're like separate things, and really they're not, because everything touches. When you make a decision, and when you make a decision on the target market side, that changes something in all those other pieces, right? If you make a change in your relationships or how you're going to your channels, right? So when we talk distribution channels, those of you who may have a product, you have resellers, right? People say, they buy stuff and then they resell it, right? That's a channel, right? Or in order to get my product made, I have to work with this guy, and this guy till the final product. Okay. Those are all distribution channels. And then how are people going to find me? What are, and that takes you into marketing. And marketing is one of your biggest, your awareness channels, one of your biggest, it may not be your biggest expense, although it could be, but it certainly is one of the most important ones. Because if nobody knows about you, nobody's going to buy from you, right? So, were there any surprises in going through that exercise?
I think other people's feedback can stimulate my own brain. I guess that's kind of similar to what I already said, but yeah.
And Lee, it does. And this is why it's good to find core people, right? That you can toss this back to.
And this we filled out kind of gives clarity to where there would normally be fog. Gives kind of a map.
Right. It's a map, and that's a good term to use. Okay. It's a map. It's a direction. It's a pathway. All right. But part of this is going to, as you get further into this, like I say, all of it, everything connects, because you say, oh, I changed this. I have to change this. I have to change this. I have to change this. Or maybe it changes in importance. What you thought was going to be the first thing is now the second thing. Right? Because you're going to get research that says this part of the market is opening up, this part of the market's closing down, right? So understanding what's happening out there in marketing conditions, it becomes very, very big. Because sometimes timing's everything, right? Being first to market sometimes, or especially with new products and things, is big. It may not be the best product, but it's the first one, right? To do so. So there's it, but it does start to gel.
I
And-
think what you were saying, Nancy, about having the same costs or the same structure and then having lots of different ways you can take it. That's what I really love the most about this exercise, because everyone had such different ideas about how to utilize this concept. And it was like, oh my gosh, these cattle are such a huge resource.
Well, it's true. And then if you look at, for instance, for some of you on your costs, are there shared costs that you can do? Like we were talking about earlier, or you're going to, in the beginning, I tell everybody, okay, you're going to make, when it comes to what you need, your resources, right? Go ahead and you make your Cadillac list. Okay, it ain't costing you nothing right now, right? So shoot for the moon, okay, if you will. And then when you started getting the answers to what all these things cost, right? Then you're going to build your Kia list. Okay, and that becomes I must haves, right? And then there's nice to haves that say maybe next year, or you may turn around and say, we have to have these because these drive in revenue, or they, serve some purpose in some other way. But these are right here. Okay, this next list, we lease that equipment to see if we really use it. And then next year we can buy it because we know we've established we've used, instead of buying everything new shiny, assuming you would use it, you may or may not. So it's really, like I say, in the beginning, just throw everything at the kitchen sink, so to speak. It's just okay. And then you're just going to start it down as you get more and more information. All right, so who's my next group?
We could go.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Because you guys can't put this off. You're not getting out of here live. So, you're going to have to make the presentation. So, all right, Ben, show me what we got.
Shoot, what do you see right now?
I see Ben's has started screen sharing and it's black.
It's black.
Yeah, don't take after me. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my best. Do you see loading? Do you see that?
Yep, I do now. Really pretty.
Yep.
Look at you guys. You're impressive. Both you're impressive, guys.
They do. Oh shoot, I lost it on my side.
Yeah,
Nice.
Stampede Ice
Okay, here
Cream.
we go. Okay,
Yep.
I got it.
We could work with this company.
So we did a Stampede Ice Cream is our name, and it's an ice cream food truck with a trailer holding a cow for a petting zoo on the back. Our value proposition would be providing like ethical, organic ice cream that tastes good, and then creating a community. We emphasize like social media and trying to get people like talking about it so that we could get it into like a retail store and our food truck and yeah, that's basically it, I think, for the but I'll just go through it. Our for distribution, we wanted to do it like in our truck, in stores, and they were thinking about getting like Uber Eats to get it to like people's houses. And another way to get it into people's houses was through like our partner, which is like we wanted to get farmers for our like our ingredients, but also to bring them in to kind of like push that we're like different. Like we wanted a lot of things to be like locally sourced, and anyone on my team can help just because there was a lot of stuff going on. So I'm trying to like juggle all the thoughts.
Yeah, you're a team guy, so contribute.
But our activities would be, which are kind of like hand in hand with like our revenue, would be like our petting zoo, and kind of showing like where we were throwing around ideas like having the milk and stuff come from our cow and like make ice cream in store. We don't know the feasibility of it because, I mean, with like licensing and insurance and health codes, but we also want to do like retails and stores. So get like the same ice cream that we make in our truck and put it in King Supers or whatever, and then having it in our truck, and then maybe do catering events. We thought that like if we did like weddings or like birthday parties or things of that sort, that might, you know, bring more attention to our cow that we're bringing around with us.
Ben, they
Um,
already do goats, so there's an opportunity for that.
Yeah, we can monopolize the cow market. And then e-commerce sales as well, taking our stuff and being able to push it through like a online order fulfillment channel. As far as our costs, we knew that we'd have to get like equipment, our truck, employees, and I mean, it's, you can see we just started talking about like food for the cow, barn, insurance. In this short amount of time, there's a lot of stuff that we're missing, obviously, but as far as revenue goes, it become, I think I already went kind of through that, but just kind of in closing, it'd be our petting zoo and our ice cream. If anyone has anything else to add or anything that I missed, you guys can go for it, but that's kind of all I got from it.
We would
Think you
use
covered
social
it best.
media to have these events like birthday parties or in a grocery store parking lot and call it a stampede where everybody, and sell merchandise, and you know that was part of it, is which Ben mentioned, but have t-shirts and you know, people helping us broadcast our brand.
One of the things, guys, to think of when it says key activities, that's where you're going to like also set up milestones that say basically we need to get this done by this, and you're going to start to give yourself almost a to-do list of things I have to do to get this thing going from a business planning side. Okay. They can also, key activities can be things, or they feed down into the types of employees you will need, right? So one key activity on here, okay, that I didn't see on anybody's, because I know it's your personal favorite, is accounting. Yeah, right. So yeah. And then are you guys going, when it, you know, when you think about your key resources, also is going to be like any software that you need to run your business, right? Okay, and then that's going to feed down into costs.
So would something like QuickBooks be a resource? Yeah, a resource.
It would be a cost.
Would
Okay.
be a cost. Okay.
Yeah.
Would it also be a partnership, or is that something?
A what now? Say that
Would
again.
it also be considered a partnership?
It's not really a partnership. It's because
just
you
paying
have,
them to
it's
do
a
a service
service. So
for you?
either you're doing it internally, right, with QuickBooks yourself, or you're outsourcing it to have someone do it for you. Okay. And again, you always manage that, but that's a cost, right? So when you start going around and getting costs and things like that, you guys are going to have to do some research and find out what are the general costs for, you know, what's the average cost for bookkeeping? What's the average cost for, you know, kind of thing. And what
Can that be a
revenue-
resource as well? I mean, it
What's
is
the-
a
yes.
resource. I mean, it is a resource to me, but it costs me $40 a month. I mean,
Yeah, but it is a resource because it's providing you information you need to run your business. You
Would
know,
you say-
it's not just the tax, it's just not making tax guy happy. That's not the rule. The rule is that in accounting, you're going to want managerial accounting, which is a much, where on your QuickBooks, you have more categories than what the tax guy needs. Okay, he just needs, or she needs just certain ones, right? But you want to know what's happening every month. You want to be able to do, you know, month to month comparables. You want to be able to, you know, do all those kinds of things. So that's in your reports, but then you basically, your bookkeeper or whoever you have, they can just collapse it at the end of the year and send what the accounting, the tax guy needs. Because they don't want all that stuff, because they're not running your business. That's what you need to run your business. That's the knowledge that helps you run the business. But it's only as good as how much information you put in there.
Would you say generally with partners, they are partnerships that will eventually lead to income or lead to revenue generation?
Not necessarily. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. When key partners are one of two. Key partners are going to be how you share vendor, or, your vendor relationships. That's one, right? So to give you an idea on that, so we have one client who, he's been a client ever since we started. He was like our first or second client. And he is very successful. He owns a very large office furniture, and he sells all over the state of Colorado. Okay. And he's dealing with big numbers because he has to order the stuff. He's got a lot of inventory. And so what he made an arrangement with is we set him up where because you would go to your vendor and say, if I pay, normally it's 30 days. Okay. You have 30 days to pay. All right. But he went and he says, if I pay in 10 days or less, what kind of break will I get? And they gave him a 2% break. Okay. So over the years, and I don't know what's been the last couple of years, but I would say over a period of 4 years, he saved close to $200,000. He didn't add anybody. He didn't add any salespeople. He didn't sell anymore. I mean, you know what I'm saying? None of that changed except how he paid. So, and revenue doesn't care how you get it, right? It's still revenue. It's operating capital. So you want to start looking at, again, there's just so many different ways that you can save money. Sometimes saving money is having software do what takes you too long to do. And then when you're starting to buy software, you guys have to look and say, is it all integrated? Will it all talk to each other if I need it to talk to each other? So a lot of different things to think about. So we have one more group. Jordan, I think you're left, right? Yeah.
Yes. Are you able to see the? Okay, cool.
We got it.
Okay, so our business are leather surfaces. Since that's our actual kind of business where we make these leather tiles, which could then be put onto really any type of surface. So like either walls, or in this case, as a cabinet, it could be a table, bookshelf, really whatever, any type of solid surface. So
for our value proposition, we have like customizable, customizable interior design, unique design. Also, we have in benefits about leather that is like a material that age well, that provides high quality and is like a unique shape in general.
So our customer relationship would be a partnership / contract, white label type business to business, where with like either interior designers, I guess that goes into the customer segments. So we'd be working with either interior designers or ideally directly with the end user, which could be a restaurant, hotel, or a homeowner. Really anyone that just wants to, like hotels, how they try to have like incredibly fancy artistic lobbies, or same with restaurants, same with, people who have, want like a really fancy house.
Yes, in channels, mainly like social media, and also approaching directly to interior design firms. So we can go and like have like a presentation, bring samples, and they can see them, touch them, and just like thinking about like the next projects that they're working on. And also design fairs. There are many, so we can have a booth there and just like show our surfaces. In key activities, is like marketing, like having the samples to show to the clients, production, I mean, like, yes, like after they like a sample, we will need to produce all the wall. Importing materials, the leather right now I'm bringing from Colombia, so that would be like an importing part. Installation, because it's something that like we will need to give directions of how to sell it, because
Yeah, we would be the subject matter experts on how to install and this very unique material.
and we have insurance and patents.
And accounting, which we definitely had way before the last group mentioned that. Key partners, our key partners would be interior design or architecture firms, stage designers, or just the direct end users, hotels, restaurants, homeowners. Suppliers would be leather manufacturers, leather working tools, suppliers, not really.
Yes.
Yeah, we would buy leather working tools from suppliers.
Yes, and makers, like
extra hired. I don't think that's a supply. Is that a supplier? Like hiring people to help with? Yeah, no, there's not really a supplier.
No. So on your key partners, so
Yeah,
Jordan, on your key partners, so like where you put partners, interior design, architectural firms, absolutely. Stage designers, absolutely, but not end users. Okay.
Oh, no.
Because you're talking to people who serve those end users. Right.
No.
Yeah, but ideally, if we could cut out the middle person, in this case being the interior designer architecture firm, and go end user.
And then there might be possibly like over when you're talking about your channels and things like that, it could be the trade associations. So there's a restaurant association, there's all those different associations where being a member might be beneficial to you.
Okay, yes. Also we have in key partners the suppliers, all the leather manufacturer.
Those are key suppliers. Yep.
Yes. And yes, and then you go down.
Yeah.
So in cost structure is mainly time, because it's something handmade, so always like requires like a long process. All the part of importing, like times, having all the workshop, the equipment, and hire labor to help. And we will say that this business, it will be more like a value-driven business. And in revenue streams, we have like the value for the unique artistic ambience. And like the price will be like determined by time, size, and customization.
So what did you guys, as a group, so what is the rest of the group, what did you learn through this process?
I think for me, it's learning how to sell. This can teach you how to sell your business, because the questions that were asked, and as we're going through it, we didn't finish this whole together.
Sure.
But like as we're going through it, there were some questions we're asking and would see that made them think a little more for their business, right? Yeah, that's really what I got from it. It's just like doing this can really help you sell your business.
And you're absolutely right with us, in that actually you come up with your voice, of your value. And a value proposition is basically, why would I choose you over everybody else, over the competition? Because everybody's got options. And so, you're not selling to everybody. You're selling to, in this case, you're selling to a pretty high-end group, right? But one thing about high-end groups, they tend to talk to each other. Just saying, right? So if you get in, for instance, if you did something for the Hilton, okay, it'd be easier to get into the Marriott, okay, because now you said, we did this for the Hilton. Think about what we could do for you at the Marriott, right? And so it's just getting those first clients that is always the most difficult or the most challenging, because you've got to get and that's why people usually start with the smaller boutique hotels, right? In that case, right? They're smaller, but they're exclusive because they're boutique. And so but they're easier to get into because they don't have all of the upper level bureaucracy that a bigger chain, a chain would have in that case.
I also see that we were able to talk about some things that were not directly their business, which is like bracelet and stuff, which I think could be a type of client for them, right? Where they can decide and say, we have this good material that we can sell you, and or I don't know, or they can design it themselves and with the pattern that they have to sell bracelet. And there were ideas that were thrown.
Exactly. You have an opportunity to maybe put some in their stores, in their hotels, right? So it's a souvenir from my business. I mean, from our trip that we took to, I don't know, wherever, right? And stayed at whatever, right? Now it's a bracelet that I can wear and remember what a wonderful time we had. People spend more on vacation. I don't know if you noticed that, right? So yeah, it's after they get home, they go, oh my gosh, how much did we spend? Kind of thing. So, but because it's about creating memories. So as a group, what did you find as a group? What going through this? Was it easier or harder than you expected?
Easier because you can talk it out. You can ask each other. We answer our own questions between us, and we find more stuff that we need for a business than just, expenses and revenue. There's the ins and outs that, like, oh, I didn't know how to think of that. Or, yeah, you're right. Stuff like that.
And so that's and one of the exercises we're going to do later on, I call it the warm seat. Some of you may have heard of the hot seat, and that sounds painful. Okay, so we'll go with the warm seat. But if you guys, and I want you guys to think about this as you're going through this, if you come up with a problem, something that's been very difficult for you to work around or, solve or whatever, we're going to have, and it depends on timing, but maybe one or two, we do these warm seats where you say, I'd like to, have 15 minutes, and you say, this is my problem, and the class does what? Helps you solve that problem. Okay, so we'll see how often we can work that into this as well, because you will be amazed at how quickly that occurs. And then when our marketing guys come in, you will be, well, they're quite a team, but you will just see how the ideas just start bouncing. This is when those consulting sessions come in really handy for you guys. Okay, so because you're talking to somebody that doesn't have any, they don't have any skin in your game. Okay. And so sometimes they can see things, or they've just talked to other people who've done different things. You've heard me already say that somebody did this or somebody did that or whatever. I didn't come up with the idea, they did. Right. So making sure that when you can, as you get further into this, set up some consulting sessions where you can work with some of our specialists about your marketing, or we're going to have the accounting people come in. We're going to, all of those people, and then you can really sit down and talk about your thing, right? And share your particular sales projections, Paul, or something like that, right? And then, Karen can look at it and say, well, what's it based on and why are you doing that? And give you some ideas about how to maybe tighten it up a little bit, or it may be perfect already. I don't know. But it's something to think about. Questions? Thoughts about this whole idea? The more you guys let yourself just go, the better off you're going to be. Right now, it's costing you absolutely no money, okay, to put down a Post-it note. You can take it off later, or put it into year 3, okay, eventually. But right now, I just want you to be okay with the process. Thank you, Belinda. I think it does. It makes you kind of like see how it all comes together. It's the idea of this is how it all connects. And once you start, the more you play with this, the better you're going to get. Okay. And then you can, like I say, you guys can meet with us as consultants and you throw up it on the screen, and most of us are very familiar with this. And we'll take a shot at it too. Flavia, that's an interesting comment you made. Makes you less scared. If anybody says they're not, this doesn't scare you, I think I want to know what's in your medicine cabinet. I mean, I swear to God, this is scary. Okay, this is new territory. And it's all right to be apprehensive. You should be. If you aren't, that's when you jump in 2 inches of water, which is not always a very good idea, right? So I want you to balance your passion with information. I don't want you to disregard. In it, yeah, there we go. Beginnings of a great mission statement. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that this is just something for that's going to evolve. It's going to change. And it's okay. But taking those pictures, guys, as you go through this, or saving it, if you got it on the computer, just saving the different ones, however you want to do it, kind of thing. It really gives you a record to kind of see the evolution, because it's easy to forget what changes. And you're also going to come up with the order of your rollout. In other words, even in this, you guys had a lot of different ideas, a lot of things you could do. Most companies wouldn't do them all to start with, right? They would pick 1 or 2, roll with that, build a reputation, add a new service, new event, new whatever, right, to their line, because they're able to take some revenue that they're making here to invest where? To there. So, questions? You guys can always, if you get stuck, okay, and you go, I just don't, I don't quite, whatever, or you have a question, you can always email me. I'm not promising I'm on and I'm going to see it right away, but I will get back to you. Make sure you put leading edge in your, in a tagline, so I know you're my most important people. Okay, that need my attention. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know the answer, and I'll try to give you somebody who does. Okay. Are you ready to make this happen?
Yes.
Yes, I want to hear a resounding yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I've got Derek, Katie, who have I got? Derek and Katie and Dawn, right? I want you guys just to stay on a few minutes longer after everybody leaves, so we can I can figure out how to give you some extra help for this last week. Okay. Get you caught up. Okay. But other than that, if you don't have anything else to say, I'll let you go. I'm not going to keep you up past your bedtime.
Thank you. Today's been nice, everyone. It's been a lot of laughter.
Yeah, thanks
We want
again,
it to be fun.
everybody.
All right.
Good
I'll see you
night.
guys next week.
Thank you so much.
All
Thanks,
right.
Nancy.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Nancy, is it okay if I stay on? I just
You
there wasn't a
can.
recording for last week.
Yes,
so
I'm not even going to record it. We're done.